survey says the fence is 2 feet over the line. You need to move it back immediately.
Ma'am, if you could just listen for a moment, I can explain.
Are you steady at the scope?
Yes, clear reading. 25 meters even.
All right, moving up now.
I can explain.
You ever meet someone who thinks they own everything just because they have a clipboard? Yeah, that was Karen, our local HOA president, or as I like to call her, the queen of the neighborhood. I moved to this quiet little community about 3 years ago, just outside the city limits. Peaceful, green, and quiet, exactly what I wanted. My property sits right next to the HOA neighborhood, but here's the key part. My land isn't part of the HOA. No rules. No meetings. No fines for parking my truck outside. Just freedom, the way I like it. But Karen? Oh, no. She couldn't stand that. From the very first day I moved in, she was on my case. She came over with her clipboard, that fake polite smile, and said, "You should still follow HOA standards, it affects our neighborhood image." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Lady, your HOA rules stop where my fence starts." She didn't like that one bit. Her smile dropped faster than you could blink, and she walked off, muttering something about community standards. A few weeks later, I started getting these little reminders in my mailbox. Neatly printed papers about lawn height, mailbox color, and even the kind of porch lights I should use. Every time I saw one, I just smiled, crumpled it up, and tossed it in the trash. Because again, I'm not part of the HOA. And that's what drove her crazy. Months went by like that. She'd give me dirty looks whenever I mowed my lawn on non-approved days. She'd stare at my truck when it was parked in my own driveway overnight. I could practically hear her blood pressure rising every time she passed by. Then came one Saturday morning, the day everything really started. I was out on my porch, sipping coffee, enjoying the sunshine. Then I noticed some movement out in my open field, the piece of land that borders the HOA side. At first, I thought it was just kids playing. But when I squinted a little, I realized, no, these were adults. A whole bunch of them. Maybe a dozen people walking around with clipboards, tape measures, and even flags to mark the ground. I frowned, set my coffee down, and walked down there. "Hey! What's going on?" I called out. They all stopped like deer in headlights. And then, out stepped Karen wearing her big sun hat, that smug little smile plastered across her face, clipboard in hand like she was running a military operation. She said, all chipper and fake friendly, "Oh, we're planning the HOA summer party here. Isn't this space just perfect?" I blinked, trying to process that for a second. Then I said slowly, "You mean, on my land?" She laughed, that kind of laugh that makes your skin crawl. "Well, technically," she said, "it's kind of part of the neighborhood." I looked around, then back at her. "My property line is right here, Karen. Everything on this side is mine." She tilted her head like I just told her a joke she didn't get. "Oh, don't be difficult," she said. "We already discussed it in the last HOA meeting. Everyone agreed this area would be perfect for the event." I raised my eyebrows. "Well, everyone except the guy who actually owns it." That wiped the smile right off her face. But Karen being Karen, she wasn't about to back down. She pulled out her clipboard again and started pointing to random spots, talking about where the food tables would go, the stage, and even a bounce house. Meanwhile, I'm standing there, just watching this circus unfold on my own land. I said, "Karen, you and your HOA don't have any authority here. You can't just plan a party on property you don't own." And she said, "I kid you not. Well, if you want, we can give you an honorary guest pass to attend." An honorary guest pass, to a party on my own property. That's when I knew she had officially lost her mind. I turned around and walked back up to my porch. Didn't yell. Didn't argue. Just sat there with my coffee, watching them continue to plan, measure, and talk about decorations on my land. Because see, I knew something Karen didn't. She thought she was clever. But she had no idea what was coming next. A week later, I started getting texts from neighbors. At first, I thought it was just the usual gossip, you know, lawn drama or someone's dog getting loose again. But no. Apparently, the HOA had posted flyers and emails all over the neighborhood. It said, "The annual HOA Summer Bash location, the field on Maple Drive." That's my address. My land. I thought maybe it was some kind of typo. Until I saw the event page on Facebook. Right there in big letters. Join us for food, games, and fun. 10 buses will bring guests from nearby communities. 10 buses. That's when I realized Karen wasn't just serious, she was delusional. But instead of getting mad, something inside me clicked. I wasn't gonna argue. I wasn't gonna stop them. No. I had a better idea. The night before the big bash, I went out with my flashlight and checked my front gate. It's an old iron gate, solid, heavy, and a bit squeaky. I oiled it up, greased the hinges, made sure the latch worked perfectly. And then I tested the lock nice and tight. I smiled to myself and thought, tomorrow's gonna be fun. The morning of the party rolled around. By 9 a.m., I was sitting on my porch with a coffee and a camera. I had the gate wide open, the grass trimmed, and the driveway clear. Everything looked inviting. Around 10 a.m., I heard the rumble. Engines. Big ones. Then, one by one, the buses started rolling in. Big yellow school buses, full of kids, parents, coolers, folding chairs, and chaos. Behind them came SUVs, golf carts, and even a truck carrying a small stage. And leading the charge, you guessed it, Karen. Karen stepped out in her bright floral dress, sunglasses, and that same smug little smile. She looked around like a queen inspecting her palace. I swear, she even had a walkie-talkie clipped to her belt. She started waving people in. Set the tents there. The bouncy castle goes near the fence. Oh, and make sure the grill's far enough from the food tables. She saw me standing near the porch and waved. Oh. Thanks for letting us use the space. I knew you'd understand. I smiled back and said, of course, Karen. I'm all about community spirit. Inside, though, I was grinning like a villain in a movie. Because this was exactly what I'd planned. For the next hour, I just stood back and watched. It was chaos in motion. People were unloading tables, kids were running everywhere, someone was blasting pop music from a speaker. Grills fired up. Someone tied balloons to my fence. Another guy parked his car on my grass like it was a parking lot. I watched them set up tents, games, and food stalls. All while stepping all over my property, like it was some public park. Karen was in her element, smiling, waving, giving speeches to random parents. Meanwhile, I just kept sipping my drink, nodding politely whenever someone waved at me. Because I knew the best part was coming. By noon, the party was in full swing. 10 buses were parked in a long line inside my field. Hundreds of people eating, dancing, laughing, shouting. They were having the time of their lives. And then, when I saw that everyone was finally distracted, I made my move. I walked over, nice and slow, to the front gate. The same gate I'd cleaned, greased, and checked the night before. I looked back once, the field full of tents, grills smoking, kids jumping on the bouncy castle. Karen on the mic, thanking everyone for supporting the HOA. And then, with one quiet little click, I locked it shut. The sound of that lock closing was beautiful. Like the final note in a song. I pocketed the key and walked back toward my porch, smiling. The party raged on behind me, music, laughter, and the smell of barbecue filling the air. They had no idea that every single one of them was now locked inside my property. About an hour later, the fun started dying down. The music was still loud, kids were running around, but I started hearing something new: confusion. Someone tried to leave. I heard a car horn honk. Then another. A few people walked up to the gate, rattling it. Then a whole group gathered around, tugging, pushing, arguing. The gate wouldn't budge. I took a slow sip of my drink. And waited. Within minutes, here came Karen, stomping across the grass like a storm in heels. Sweat pouring down her face, sunglasses askew, clipboard nowhere to be found. She was furious. "Why is the gate locked?" she yelled. "People are trying to go home." I looked up, pretending to be surprised. "Oh, that's weird," I said calmly. "You said this was your neighborhood's property, right?" "I just figured, you had your own key." Her face turned bright red like a tomato ready to explode. "Unlock it right now or I'll call the police." I leaned against the porch railing, grinning. "Go ahead," I said. "But just so you know, this is my private property. You're all trespassing." For a second, she froze. You could see it in her eyes, that moment when she realized she'd messed up. Big time. About 20 minutes later, the flashing lights appeared down the road. 2 patrol cars pulled up outside the locked gate. The music stopped. People started whispering. Karen straightened her dress and tried to act like everything was under control. The officers got out, looked around at the scene, hundreds of people, tents, grills, food tables, balloons, chaos. One officer turned to me and asked, "Sir, is this your land?" I smiled. "Yup. Title's in my name. Want to see it?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the digital copy of my deed. He looked it over, nodded, and said, "Okay, that's pretty clear." Karen immediately jumped in, waving her hands. "This is a community area," she shouted. "We use it for neighborhood events all the time." The officer turned to her, calm but firm. "Ma'am, this isn't your land. You organized a public event on someone else's private property. That's trespassing." The whole crowd went silent. You could have heard a balloon pop from 50 feet away. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. She had no words. Her little clipboard power trip had just blown up in front of everyone. From there, it was chaos, the other kind. Parents started packing up their kids. People scrambled to fold tables and carry coolers. The band stopped playing mid-song. But the funny part? The field was so packed with buses and cars, no one could even turn around. So they had to back out, one by one. It took nearly 3 hours for everyone to leave. And the whole time, I stood there with my arms crossed, just watching. By sunset, the last bus finally pulled away. My once green field looked like a disaster zone. Trash everywhere. Confetti in the trees. Broken chairs. A half-deflated bouncy castle lying on its side like a wounded animal. Karen avoided my eyes as she drove off. I didn't say a word. Didn't yell. Didn't even demand an apology. Because I already had a plan. The next morning, I sat at my desk, wrote up an invoice, and mailed it straight to the HOA office. Neat and professional. Land use fee, $2,500. Cleanup fee, $1,200. And at the bottom, I added a little handwritten note. Next time, ask permission. 3 days later, I got a check in the mail. They actually paid it. Since then, every HOA newsletter has a brand new rule printed right at the top. All community events must be held on HOA property only. I still laugh every time I see it. Karen? She still lives down the street. Drives by slow whenever she passes my house, eyes forward, pretending not to see me. But I always wave. Big smile on my face. Because every time I stand on my porch, coffee in hand, looking out over my field, I remember that beautiful day when the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood learned one simple truth. My land. My rules.